Our guest today is a legendary basketball player, a four-time Olympic gold medalist, a three-time WNBA MVP, co-host of We Need to Talk, a coach, a luxury realtor, but most importantly, mom to Lauren and MJ. Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa Leslie.
We have to put a clap in.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lisa.
And remember to watch the video version of our podcast and see Lisa's smiling face. Please visit neverloseyourcape.com. Lisa, thank you so much. It's always an honor to talk to you. I always feel very enlightened and just like on cloud nine every time we get to talk. And so I appreciate you spending some time with me so much today. We like to start every episode in true basketball fashion with our warm-up segment. So you're going to get two rapid fire questions.
Okay.
First one, what are you binge watching right now?
Oh, wow. What am I binge watching? For the first time in my life, I'm binge watching The Bachelor because I have been so engulfed with the first new Black Bachelor. I love this show, so I've been watching all of it. And when I missed one on Monday, I had to go back and, find it and watch it. I don't want anybody to tell me what happened when I miss it. So can't wait to, I think we're getting to the finale maybe next week.
Yeah, I'm excited for Mr. Ocho to host. He's hosting that after the final rose segment, right?
Who's hosting it?
Emmanuel, he's stepping in for
Oh,
Mr.
Emmanuel
Chrisette.
Acho, is he?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
So I'm
I
excited
read
for that part.
something where I thought he was just going to be talking to the host, but I didn't realize, is he going to host?
He's hosting. I don't watch the show, but from my knowledge, I think he's hosting the final rose or after the whatever they call the final show.
Final say, oh, okay. Well, that'd
Yeah,
be
so
great.
something
I
to look
look
forward
forward to
to.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Second question, because I like to make a positive with this one. What was the best thing about quarantine 2020?
Well, as a real estate professional, it honestly was a very successful year for us, I guess, financially with our property. So I am an Airbnb owner. My husband and I have several properties that we have on Airbnb. And since they're all close to the water and people just trying to get out of New York and New Jersey or coming from California, it's been great having people be able to quarantine together and have that social distance, but wanting to be in a house is really popular right now. So that has been really good. We got a chance to sell quite a few homes as well to our clients. So real estate business has been booming during the quarantine. That's probably been the most positive, um, aside from just having our health and having my family and friends survive the pandemic.
Awesome. Yeah, I know real estate around here in the Boston area has been crazy, crazy. So I think too is that people want to focus more on home and family. And I love the idea, we haven't gone anywhere, but if we do, it's definitely not going to be the hotel. It's going to be a place like you were talking about, because I just
Yes.
think it's
Yeah. I
more
think the
wholesome.
Airbnb is the way to go. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I just think having the protocol that we have, making sure that the homes are sprayed, all of our linens and things like that are all white. So, either it's clean or it's dirty, there's no in between. And that's really how I like it. And I got that experience from my husband and I took the children. We went to pre the pandemic. We went to Paris and to Nice for a month, and we stayed in the Airbnb, and um, it was good. But I found that there were certain things that kind of made me, you see it like colored towels and things that was kind of like, I'm a little itchy about certain things, and or blinds versus curtains, just different things that you don't really realize until you're in that situation. And so I was like, when we have our properties, I want everything white. I want our sheets white, bedspreads, blankets, just different things so that people will know when you see it, either you see there's a problem or there's a stain, then it's not clean. And so that, I think, having the Airbnb experience for myself really helped me understand what I wanted to be as a host for other families. And so it's been great, really investing in properties and having that to share with people, especially during the pandemic.
Awesome. I love that. So if you're in Florida, check Lisa's stuff out.
There
It
you
sounds
go.
excellent. Yeah.
Airbnb, Delray Beach.
Airbnb.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're gonna get right into it now. So this our podcast here, it's all about perseverance and hope for our listeners. So tell us your story of when did you know that basketball was going to be such a huge part of your life?
Basketball, I really just decided to play. 12 years old, seventh grade, only because there was a player, Sharon, who we called her Shay. She was most popular. Everybody knew her name. People would be like, there's Shay. And I'm like, who is she? Like, why is she so popular? And really, they were like, that's Shay. You don't know she's on the basketball team. The way that people spoke of her really created, I think, a level of admiration I had for her, and I didn't really know why, but I liked the fact that people felt good about Shay, and that was, I think, the thing for me. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to make people feel excited and happy when they met me or saw me play, and I really fell in love with the game because of how it made people feel. When I think back in my head when playing in even in high school, when I would run down the court and I look at the stands and see people smiling and high-fiving and happy, it didn't matter about their color, their religion, their creed, none of that. I feel like sports is that one place where it all was thrown out the door and it was just about like the team and people being happy. So even though I played not hearing a lot, I think when you're in the zone, as we call it, but looking to the left of me and the right of me and watching people's excitement and high fiving, and that is what really drew me into the sport. That's what made me fall in love with it, is how it made people feel and fans. And I love that.
Ugh, I played basketball in college. Serafina played basketball in college, my producer. And so what you're talking about is like my favorite, the camaraderie and the warmth and the excitement. That's what I love most about the game. Now you've won at every level. What for you in training wise and mental wise, was it college? Was it WNBA? Was it the Olympics? Which part of your basketball career was the most strain on, I would say, physically on your body, but mentally on you as well?
That's a great question. I don't feel like basketball ever brought me a feeling of mental anguish or like this is too hard. Or there are moments now, I would say every year in the preseason having to get on the track is why there was always a time when I asked myself, now why am I doing this? Because I hated being on the track. And although I was good at running, I did not enjoy it. It's the most unenjoyable part, I would say, of basketball is preseason, getting on the track, running more than one lap for me is like, are we serious? Like, I didn't come out here to be a track runner. But that mental toughness is made on the track also. Even through my pro career, having my trainer, and he's like, okay, well, meet me at the track, 5:45 a.m. You're out there and you're doing sprints, anything past, the 440 or what is it called, a 400, one lap. I don't know what they call it now. They changed the name over the years, but one lap. I'm like, how many laps? Like 2, 4, a mile. Come on, 3 miles, dude. I did not sign up for that. So that for me was probably the most challenging mentally, was to meet my coach on the track or meet my team on the track in college. Beyond track season and preseason, or even as a pro, two-a-days, that's the most challenging time. But what I loved about that is it always challenged me to look in the mirror and say, who am I during tough times? And, maybe this was before I was even aware of like mental health and being strong. I feel like my childhood forced me to be mentally tough early, and I didn't know that. My mom being a truck driver, driving an 18-wheeler truck across country, leaving my sisters and I, me taking care of my little sister who's 8 years younger. I was forced to be mature early. I was forced to really move as if I had a child of my own, feeding my sister, making sure we were eating, making sure she was bathed. Those things are mentally taxing for a child to take care of a child. But in some ways, it forced me to be mentally tough and to be a survivor early. And I say that in a way that I believe it translated for me mentally in sports to say, hey, the worst thing that could happen here is that I'm getting tired, that I'm physically tired, but mentally, I'm not being abused, I'm not hurt. I can do it. And I think that process of knowing that I can do it, writing down my goals and being a goal setter, and then being able to actually achieve some of those goals is what kept me going every year. Is the fact that I was always very prayerful. Let me just back up. I've always been a prayerful kid. I've always really been I love the Lord. I've always been a person who prayed. So having that support mentally for me has been key. That is where my strength comes from. That is where my believing in a higher power has always helped me when I come to times of adversity. And so maybe I didn't have these times that I felt were so overwhelming in my life because I've always had some levels of peace, faith, and support that balanced out the rigorous schedules of trying to be great.
I love that. And so along the podcast, we talk about our toolkits, what things are in our toolkit to help us persevere during difficult times. And I love that you said prayer and goal setting. Prayer is certainly something that I do every day. It is a huge part of my life, and it is definitely something that helps me get through these challenging times. I want to go back to a little bit about what you said when you were 8 years old and you were essentially a child taking care of a child. When you were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and you started to play basketball and you started to set these goals for yourself, did you ever have that struggle of guilt of like, how can I do this for myself if I need to take care of my siblings?
No, because I realized that basketball was going to be my way out. That's how I was going to be able to get to college. My mom could not afford to send me to a college. So in my head, basketball became necessary. Like that, I had to do that. And I realized the connection early. Once I started playing, I did not have a lot of success, but I started to have success early and I became so locked in. And really, I fell in love with basketball probably my second year, which is my eighth grade year. But through falling in love with it, having my cousin Craig, who's my only boy cousin, who really invested his time taking me to the gym literally every day for 1 year, that big jump of playing on AAU team, 12 and under, 14 and under, 16 and under, and 18 and under. Anytime there was a team that needed a player, I was changing jerseys and jumping on the court. That time invested with my little sister in the stand, sitting there, keeping an eye on her while I'm running up and down the court, making sure she had some food. That was our way. And everybody knows, anybody who knew me at that time knew that if you were picking me up, I had to bring my sister Tiffany with me. We were a package deal. I didn't go many places without her other than school itself. And after school, I still had to grab her and then go back to practice. So it was kind of, I mean, probably not even legal when you look back at like my high school coach who would allow my little sister to go with us to games, home or away, in order for me to be able to play. That was just a part of it. And so my sister then became sort of my secretary. Once I got to eighth grade, I started to receive calls from colleges. By the time I was in the ninth grade, I had received colleges and college letters from over 100 schools. By the time I got to my senior year, I'd received over 250, I think, letters and calls. So my sister started to answer the phone and become the secretary and say when I was there, or coaches I didn't want to talk to, or it just became what I did. And she understood that. um, coaches understood that. She was a part of that. And I never felt guilty because I knew I was working. In fact, I probably thought I was being so responsible and so organized and structured that I was managing a child while being a child and while playing a sport, that this sport was going to be our way out. And when I say out, we lived in Compton, California, which is, now that people know, straight out of Compton, it's an inner city in Los Angeles. And we had a lot of love. We didn't feel like we lacked for anything. We didn't feel like we were a poor family. I would never describe us in that way. But now, understanding the spectrum of the world, we didn't have a lot. We didn't have a lot of food. We didn't have a lot of clothes. And sometimes when you're in that situation, you don't know what you don't have. We didn't have social media and we didn't see what we didn't have. So I felt very whole as a child and complete. And I felt like I was helping my mom because my mom was working as hard as she could to help us.
Was it hard for both of you when you went to college?
No, I was ready to, I was kind of at a point where I was tired of my sister. She was starting to get to, let's see, if I was in college at about 17 and 18, so she's what, 11 or so, 10, 11, 12. She was quite annoying at that age to me. She knew that I was like, I didn't like her attitude. I was like, Mom, get her, I'm done. She's working my nerves. But of course, now my sister and I, we've been inseparable since she finished high school anyway. During those years, I was really happy that my mom stopped driving cross country and she was home. But then my sister came back and lived with me. By the time I got to the WNBA, I bought a house, car. My sister's there. One of the rooms is hers. And so we were back together again for another probably 5 or 6 years before I put her out. So to this day, I live in Florida. My sister lives 10 minutes from here. My mom lives 8 minutes from here. We're just a really close family with a lot of love to play games and cook and be home. And, I think my husband got that message very early that it's a package deal.
I love what I love about this story so much is that it exhibits such empathy from you as a child. Especially now we're in the pandemic, we're very fixated on, is my child behind? Are they reading at the reading level? Are they doing math? Like, have we ever asked, like, is our child exhibiting empathy to others? And I listened to you tell the story about your sister and your relationship, and I just think of, like, what empathy in that 8-year-old, what empathy in that 8th grader. And it honestly, it warms my heart. And I hope that when I'm raising my 3 kids, that's what I think about empathy a lot.
Mm.
And do you ever, do Lauren, your children, Lauren and MJ, do they know the extent of which that you cared for your sister?
Yes, they do know. Lauren actually, she's an avid reader. So she read my first book, Don't Let the Lipstick Fool You. So she knows the story probably more than my son. But what I do see in my children is that they have a lot of empathy. They love children. I love that my son loves babies, and I love that they are caring and thoughtful. But I learned, well, I realize now that it was never an option not to be loving and caring in my home with my mom, that we weren't allowed to like tease each other or put each other down or say negative things to each other. So my family and my children are the exact same way. They do not belittle each other or say negative things to one another. And probably by habit, I think maybe they see maybe a little bit, sometimes it happens on television. And so they kind of get, that teasing back and forth. But my children are only in trouble more for if they're not getting along. Because what I do is, like, if you two can't get along, we will not have play dates. We won't, other kids are not allowed to come over. So that started really early. So they don't have an option. My kids will sit in the same chair and watch TV where they have option of 6 different, they can sit anywhere on the sofa and they're sitting in the same chair with the legs up. And I love their relationship that they're that close, but that's what they see. They see that with my sister and I. They see that love wins. Love wins in my house. Love wins in life. I'm a very affectionate person. I've always been an affectionate kid. My nickname from my mom was the shadow, because anywhere my mom was, I was there with her. If she's cleaning or mopping, I'm cleaning. I want to clean and mop with her. She's out mowing the lawn. I want to mow the lawn with her. And I think, love is just important, and it's an action, and your children have to feel loved, but you also have to make sure that they understand how to love and how to love each other and how to love you. The fact that my children they're not even allowed to go to bed without giving us hugs and saying I love you, and I'm loving them. And my son still asks me to tuck him in. Don't tell his friends. Mom, can you come tuck me in? And my husband's like, I think it's probably time for you to stop tucking him in. I'm like, no, I'll never stop doing that, because one day he's not going to ask me.
Mhm.
Love is important. And I think for kids to feel safe and loved, it's a something. It really is. And I don't take it for granted, because my mom loves my sisters and I so hard. And probably because we had to be separated so much, that we value our time together in a way that is probably um, probably for someone on the outside looking in, is like, wow, you guys family, you're so close. I mean, even my husband has commented, just like, he loves it. He used to have a house full of friends all the time, because his friends were his family, and that's how he received love. But for me, I don't have a lot of friends, because I have a lot of family, and we have so much love that my circle is probably small of outside people. But that's the way I was even as a player. My teammates were my teammates, and I'm not saying that they weren't my friends. I had so much love for them. I fought hard for them, but I didn't feel like I had to change who I was for them to like me, or you don't like me. I'm just a leader. I'm going to lead, and let's win, let's fight. But through my love of how I love unconditionally, I'm loving all my teammates. But I don't have to be liked, and I don't have to have something from you for me to feel good about myself, because that love that my mom instilled in me is so much that I get from my sisters. And I do have more than one sister. So from my sisters and my cousins, that we have so much love and support for each other, that the world cannot do anything to hurt me, because of the love that I receive from home. So I think it's very valuable for us to understand the importance of love and home and affection. And we all need it, right? As human beings, we need it. And you need it from the people who you're closest to, right? It's like you can go to the store, and the woman with the attitude, because she's having a pissy day, right? I can decide whether I want to snap and get snappy with her, or I can look and go, wow, I'm sorry you're not having a good day, right? Because I see from my lens of my good day that she's not having a good day. I can jump in and be like, it was rude the way you gave me my money, and I could get all snappy with her, or I could just respond in love, because the love that's in my heart is that I feel empathy for you, and I'm sorry you're not having a good day. God bless you anyway. And I'm going to take my money off the counter or whatever it is and move on, because I've learned that it's actually easier to cuss someone out, or have an attitude. That's the easy way. But I'd rather take the harder path, to challenge myself mentally to be the better person. And sometimes being the better person means it looks like I lost, right? Because you told me off, because you were rude to me and I walked away. But to me, I'm winning in my heart, because I'm like, that's what the Lord would want me to do, is to walk away from this situation, because before it escalates to something that I would truly be embarrassed by, that I would truly spend my whole day rethinking about what she said and what I said. I don't like that feeling. So I'd rather take the L in conflict, and let you feel like you won, because you said some words, or you told me off, or I'd rather walk away with a smile of letting you have that. I don't know. That's just me. And in basketball, though, that was not the way I was. Obviously, I played very, very aggressive. I'm very much, it's a fight. But I think that I was able to compartmentalize when I need to be at 12, because 12 is past 10. Like she's fierce, she's aggressive. And that was me on the court. But me in my everyday life, oh, I'm gonna stay at a one. It's, I'm always gonna try to go with love first. I really, really am.
Now, what I love so much about listening to you talk is that I feel like when you had Lauren, you were in the WA. In some sense, I feel like it was Lisa Leslie and Jenny Finch. Those were the moms in sports, and that was it.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I always admired, because I always want somebody to show, I believe that you can do what you desire to do. Be a mom, be a professional basketball player, run a business, whatever it is. I don't really believe in choosing one over the other. I believe that if this is what your heart desires and this is your goals, you figure out a way to accomplish it. But when you were in the WNBA and you had Lauren, and you were sort of like the face of the WNBA, you were the face of like being a mom and being a professional athlete and being a mom. Did you feel like what you're talking about, it swayed you a little bit? So you're super fierce on the court, and now you just have your first child, which I tell everybody is like winning the Super Bowl. When you have your first child, it's absolutely amazing. The amount of sizes your heart grows when that happens is extraordinary. So did you find that time challenging? Did you find it like, what do you remember most about that time?
I think that that time is probably the most challenging time. That is the first time that I realized I couldn't be 100%. I couldn't give 100%. Probably the first time in my life. I gave basketball 100%. I was married to basketball. I say, probably, it goes to the mindset of like Kobe, like everybody's not willing to make the sacrifices that it takes to be great. And I made a lot of sacrifices in my life, personal life, how I went to bed, how I ate, the times I went to bed, I didn't hang out. I mean, I sacrificed a bunch to be prepared because I always felt like um, I could be impacting someone's first time seeing a women's basketball game or a WNBA game, and I need to be on. I'm only going to have one or two bad games out of a whole season. I mean, if we like really Rolodex every season I played in, probably from 2000 to 2009, I probably had only two games a season where I didn't have a good game. And that was not by accident, that was intentional because I thought it was very important to be consistent. When Coop or any of my coaches would ask, do I want a day off? I never liked days off because then I don't like to lose my touch. Like everything was just about playing and focus and playing basketball. So to answer your question, once I had Lauren, it's the first time in my life that I realized the adjustment that it takes to be anything and have a child and to really be into your child, because some people have the privilege to have nannies and to be able to have someone else take care of their children while they work, right? But me being the perfectionist that I am and the competitor that I am, is like, I don't want anybody knowing my child more than I know my child. So that was very important to me. However, that comes at a sacrifice. And the sacrifice was I was no longer the first person at the gym nor the last one to leave. Um, I couldn't put in all the hours. I was nursing for the first 8 months. So that goes with pumping, milk in the locker room, getting out on the court. You feel your breast filling back up. By the time it's into practice, I need to go shower so I can pump again. Then getting that milk home so that Lauren could have it, so it didn't go bad. Like it's a whole thing. And yes, it is difficult and it comes down to choices. And we, the mother, are 85 to 90% responsible for the child and the life adjustment. Just being honest, it's an adjustment. My husband didn't miss a day at work or didn't have to. I mean, he could take time off because of his job, but it's an adjustment, and one that I love. I was happy that I had Lauren, and the timing always never feels like it's the right timing in a woman's life because of your job, right? I had to miss a whole season. I had to break the news to the Sparks, a whole press conference, and you're sitting there in a way that you're apologizing almost for being pregnant. And it's that probably could have been tough mentally, but again, spiritually, God doesn't make any mistakes, and it's the right timing for me. And I had to stay in that space of it's time for, this is
What's so
the
crazy
time.
is that you would never see a male athlete do a press conference about having a child. That's what
Oh,
is like so crazy about this.
no, you would never see that because they don't physically have it, one, but just because nothing about his job has to, I mean, his biggest interruption is like, is he gonna miss the day of the game or the Super Bowl, right? Because the wife is in labor during the game.
Right.
So
And I will
yeah,
say too that the whole nursing thing, I have 3 children. I nursed each of my children for a year each. I don't think everyone knows how much goes into that.
oh,
And I'm not saying formula or breast milk is one's better than the other. I'm just saying if you are doing this, there is
mhm,
so much planning. There's so much planning. We talked to there's members of the US women's soccer team who are nursing at halftime during the games.
yeah.
And so when you're in this and you're like, now I'm not the first one at the gym, I'm not the last one to leave, this is really, really tough. Like what helped you persevere during that time, like during that most challenging time of your career?
Oh, and don't forget postpartum, because I had postpartum a little, which I think probably everybody has. I think we don't know how to the extent of that, but um, the thing that honestly helped me was this idea. There have been my ancestors in Africa have had children with less resources than what I have. I cannot complain. I have pumps. I have all these gadgets. I mean, look, we had like diaper baskets and what's it called? The thing where you drop the diaper in and it
Hyper
kind of
Genie.
takes it, the diaper genie and friggin' carriers. And I mean, come on, the luxury. My friggin' stroller was, what is this? It was like a luxury stroller that was a bed. It's ridiculous. So in my head, I had to talk myself through the fact that all this access and resources that I have, that women have done way more with less resources. And that is what honestly keeps you sane in the fact that one, we have so many resources. Two, you have to realize that a child is raised by a village, not an individual. And I had to learn to be reliable on that village. That village was my mom, my sister Tiffany, that I talked about, and my nanny, close friend, best friend of my sister Stephanie, who helped and traveled with me everywhere. And so I took Lauren everywhere. Lauren's passports all, she was in China with me for the Olympics. I had to realize I had to adjust. Changes had to be made. And I was very blessed enough to have resources where Lauren could go with me. I could take my nanny. The WNBA was gracious enough to allow her to travel with us. The USA Basketball was gracious enough to allow us to bring our, children and nannies with us. So Lauren was everywhere. The nursing was a challenge, obviously. But that's why I only got to 8 months. By the time I had been, training so much to get back into the Olympics that I ran out of milk. And that was a whole emotional moment too, just not having enough to be able to supply her, because I really enjoyed every moment of my breastfeeding. I think Lauren is amazingly healthy because of it. But I did eventually have to add a formula later. So the process for me, I loved it all. I think it's challenging and it's tough. No child comes here the same. Lauren was breech. So I had to have a C-section. That was another thing unexpected. I'm thinking, hey, I'm an athlete. I'm going to pop this baby out and get back out there and then like pump your brakes. Lauren actually had her the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck and around her waist and her feet. So it was a whole emergency thing happening when I did have a C-section to get her out. So, a lot of things play into our mental, the physical, and the adjustments we have to make. But I always, always go back to the spiritual. And the spiritual for me is where I find peace, faith, love, patience, forgiveness, whatever it is that I need. My spiritual space for me is everything. And that's my balance in it. So maybe I never really process, oh gosh, I'm having a mental anything. I usually have never used those words because I feel like life can have peaks and valleys. And when we have those moments of valleys, it's like, who are you during those tough times? And sometimes those times are a lot tougher. We know whether it's losing a loved one or diseases or ailments, those tough times can be very heavy on us. But who are we during those tough times and where do you go to? And I feel like the faith and the love and the prayer that I have daily during those good times sustain me when I have those tough times.
So let's recap about your toolkit throughout
Yeah.
perseverance. So number one is prayer, which I love so much. And I think for me personally, I think it's so important. If you're out there, you've never tried it, I encourage you to try it. If it's not your thing, try meditation, anything to give your mind some peace.
But let me
and-
add to that. The
sure.
reason why I say prayer, and I want to just explain for people who so that they can understand. Life is what you say it is. Whatever you profess it to be out of your mouth, that's what life is. If you say life is tough, you're going to have a tough life. If you say life is easy, it can be easy. If you think that, you know, there are tough times, right? But as we manifest these things and we put them out in the universe, the reason why I feel prayer is helpful is because it's tough to navigate on your own in your own flesh. Just you alone, we don't feel like we have enough. So we need some help. And I feel like that spiritual help can be helpful. Yes, if you're not a believer in anything or any other higher power, maybe meditation would be that only place for you to find that peace, but you need help. Like help is here for us. And life, especially in a pandemic, has been 2020, which is a life in a year of clarity. We've seen clearly what our country is, people around us. We've seen clearly social injustice. We've seen clearly racism. We've seen it clearly, right? So to see that clearly, it's been a lot. And we've been locked up and we've been still in a way that we've never been in our lifetimes. I don't know how you make it without having some higher being of help for our mental health, help
Or
for
hope. Or
hope,
hope. It gives me
faith,
such
faith
hope.
we're going to get to a better time. Like I don't know how you make it. And maybe that's what the struggle is for a lot of people. You got to tap into something else beyond yourself to get that space and that place of hope, of peace, of love, that we're going to make it, of survival.
Mhm.
It's like we're in a game and we're down by 30. What are we going to do? We're not going to give up. We're not going to quit. We have to have hope. We have to have faith in our skills and what we know and what we believe. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of to like help people is that you need help, and help has to come from somewhere beyond yourself because we don't have enough. We're not enough to make it.
Right. And I love also what you talked about when you talked about it takes a village, asking and accepting help
Yeah.
too of others. Is that you said when you realize like I want to be there and I want to do this, but it doesn't make me weaker if I accept help. We talked to this great guy, Dave Schaller, who works for the 76ers, and he said, don't wait until you're so far at the bottom to ask for help.
Mhm.
Reach out. And that doesn't just mean help with childhood. just help with your life, having someone to talk to, going and doing prayer with someone, going through
Yes.
the motions and pushing love and responding with love. That was also in your toolkit,
Yeah.
and using positive talk. I love that so much. Now, if you had to give our listeners out there one final message of hope that you want other people to know, what would you say?
Final message of hope. Uh, I don't know. I say things, I say, I love, first of all, I love quotes. So I think it's important to find things that you are passionate about and things that make you smile and that you're happy, make you happy. And there's so many apps that have those things. I read a daily word every morning. And I always smile when I'm reading my daily word because I'm like, this word right now was intended for me specifically. And I feel like having those daily words, from the Bible helped me a lot. I think the second thing, I know you said one, but it's hard to just have one. Okay, so the other thing I would just say is that tough times don't last, but tough people do. And no, we're going to make it. We're going to persevere through this. So find things every single day that can help you persevere through the day.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for being vulnerable with us and for sharing your stories and your avenues and your advice of perseverance for others. If you have any further questions or comments for myself or for Lisa, please visit our website, neverloseyourcape.com, and send us a note in the contact us section. And as a reminder, to see the video version of this episode, visit neverloseyourcape.com. Lisa Leslie, I am so blessed and so grateful to know you as a friend and a person, and I am so thankful that you decided to join us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Continued blessings to you. Give those babies some hugs and keep posting them on Instagram. I enjoyed it.